Okay, I'm in this video going to show folks how to use Google Sheets and a command called VLOOKUP to include information or data from two separate spreadsheets onto the same spreadsheet. We find this particularly useful for building our data trackers and for pulling intervention data into a single spreadsheet. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to show you how to pull in student information as well as current teachers to a Google Sheet that captures current PSSA data. So with that, we're going to start. And if you notice here on column A, you see that we have student ID numbers. Whenever you use this VLOOKUP function, which is right here, you should always have student ID numbers on both pieces of data that you're using, or some other identifying feature for the student that matches. So traditionally, the names that are on our data sheets aren't going to be the names that we see when we pull other reports. That's why I always like to do a student ID number. So let's look at some of our other areas where data is housed. So I want to assume in this video that you've already downloaded a SchoolNet report that had some important student demographic information on it. So that SchoolNet report should look something like this right here when you download it to Excel. And again, the information that I want to get for this purpose is student ID number, advisor, grade, gender, and race. But again, once I have this student ID number, I could get whatever other information that I would like to include. And I could use that and combine it into a spreadsheet. What I'm doing now is I'm taking the columns B through F, and I'm just going to copy them because I'm going to paste them into a different sheet here on Google. And it's important that you use a different sheet. So I'm going to add a sheet. I'm going to, and that sheet is now sheet 15 right here. I'm going to name sheet 15 data 1. And I'm going to then paste, starting in column A, all of that student data that I just copied from Excel. And so it will have that same information across the top, and then all of my student information all the way down to the bottom there too. So now, again, my goal is to have this data here populate next to the student's name here with their appropriate demographic information. And so in order to do that, I'm going to make a few more cells. So I'm going to start on B. I'm going to hit Control and click, and I'm going to insert a cell to the right. I'm going to name this cell Current Teacher. And the reason that we do this is we want to, and I'm just going to double click here to extend it out. We want to match last year's PSSA data to this year's teaching roster. And so the first thing I now have is this new column, and in this cell, I'm going to add my VLOOKUP function, and that's right here. And so you have to hit the equal sign first. You type in VLOOKUP, and it should vertical lookup. And just for people that might be wondering why and how this works, what VLOOKUP does is it's going to find this ID number in this spreadsheet. And it's going to, according to the column that we select, populate it under current teacher. So the first part of this VLOOKUP command is then saying, which cell do I want to look up first? And I want to look up this cell A2, okay? I'm at A2, comma, and this tells the computer that I'm going to a separate command. I'm going to look up onto a new spreadsheet. And again, the spreadsheet I'm looking up is this data sheet right here. So I'm going to type in data. And actually, this needs to be in quotation marks, data, in quotes, exclamation point. And now I'm telling it what rows in this data sheet do I want it to find. And I'm looking through columns A through E. And so next, I'm going to type in, next to data, A, colon, E, comma. And so now what this is, I'm sorry, I made a mistake here. This is data 1. It's whatever the spreadsheet down here is named. Data 1, A through E, right? And so now it's trying to look up that data, this ID number, in this data sheet right here, data 1. And then the next thing I'm going to type in is what column from A through E do I want it to produce in here? And the column that I want is the current teacher, which is 2, because it goes A is 1, B is 2. So 2 is the column. And then I'm hit comma right here, and I'm going to hit false, which means that if it returns something else back, it's going to give me an error message. And what's neat is it's already finding who that is right here. This is Jacqueline Shahar is the current teacher in this section. So this function now has found, using this ID number on this spreadsheet, who the student's current advisor is, and that is Jacqueline Shahar. Now that I have the formula in this cell, I wait for my cross to show up here. I can drag and drop for every other teacher. And so again, it's finding these ID numbers right here and who their current teacher is. And so I can continue this function all the way down to the bottom here for all of our students. So it goes. We have 426 graders. And it now has all of their teachers, their current teachers, with their data. So again, this is useful now because I can then create a filter up here. So what I did is turn the filter on, and I can now say I just want to have all the kids in Mr. Yaller's class. And so I can search, and then these are all of the students that are in Mr. Yaller's sections with their scores next to them. Okay, so that is how you get a current teacher listed with the current data that you have for the PSSA. So what I would do next with this data is then I would probably make a copy of this, and I would name this Yaller Tracker. And now Mr. Yaller has his students filtered into his own personal tracker too. Keep in mind that we have copied the entire sheet though, and so we have all of these other tabs that are part of the window as well. Another note just on I'm going to go back to our PSSA data here. Another note on what you can do with this information, with this VLOOKUP. I'm going to select all again, so I have all my students back here. We can add another column to the left now because I like this data, and I said, hey, I want to also look up who their current grade level, their gender, and their race and ethnicity. I can do that by adding this function to the next column over. So check this out. I'm going to add this right here. All right. And it says Adam Yaller here because it's still pulling from this column 2. But if I wanted to pull from column 3, I changed that 2 to a 3. I can now pull the grade level. And I can name this column grade level. Sorry for my notifications here. And again, same thing. I wait for this cross to show, and I can pull down for all of these. And they're all going to say 6th grade because I am looking at current 6th grade data. But I'm just going to demonstrate. I can continue this across here with this VLOOKUP. Again, I'm pasting that same. I did a Control V to paste that same function. I'm turning it. I'm adding the equal sign to turn it into a formula. And I said 3 last time. I want 4 here. Now I'm getting their gender. This is female. And again, it will match up for each student because it's looking at the ID number. And I can name this gender. Okay. And it looks like there were a couple that were filtered out here. So I'm just going to drag and drop that up there, drag and drop that up there. And then I'm going to insert another column. And again, I'm doing the same VLOOKUP. I'm in the cell. I'm going to come up here to the function. I'm hit Control V, and I'm changing this to column 5 equals VLOOKUP. And this is now giving me my demographic information. And so I could say race right here. And I'm going to also expand. So I just double clicked this to expand for the race. Again, I wait for my crosshairs to show up. I drag it down, and it copies the formula down for me for all of the students that I'm wanting to expand for. So again, to get to every student on the sheet, I would get the crosshair. I would drag all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. And now I have a couple errors down here that might mean they were not part of our they weren't able to find their VLOOKUP. You might get some errors throughout. And then male, I'm going to drag this down too, all the way to the bottom so it copies that information. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to continue with the grade level. Again, if you're doing a large spreadsheet with students in multiple grades, this is useful, but for this purpose, you are simply just getting the grade level. Okay, so now what I've done is I've created our spreadsheet to have not just the PSSA information, but also some important demographic information too. Again, you can start to filter now for certain teachers, and then they can have their own classes with this information that they might find important for supporting their students. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to make another video for how to create a pivot table using this information. A pivot table, I think, is important when we're looking at some particular data that would help to plan instructional decisions for a grade or for a classroom. And so I'm going to stop here, and I hope this was useful. Thank you.